happy to welcome Adrian Furnham. That is a beautiful person and a beautiful surname. You can sound that it's very, very English, from London. That is a person who knows everything about psychology because he wrote 50 books, believe it or not, on psychology. Professor of Psychology of University College of London. 50 books that I think are very, very relevant now. And my first question to you, Professor, because there are many books: Culture Shock, The New Economic Mind, Psychology of Money, Psychology of Physical Attraction. That is very interesting. Question number one, Professor. This is turbulent times. There is informational war, a lot of news that are going to people, and definitely it's very, very stressful. We don't know what to do. COVID, informational war, everything. At least few tips. I know it's necessary to study ages. I know it's very difficult to explain in few minutes, but few tips how to stay normal, how not to become crazy, how to psychologically to survive and not to collapse, if any, from your side.
Well, they say one of the characteristics which most distinguishes successful business people and successful entrepreneurs is resilience. That is the ability to cope with stress, to not worry as much as possible. In fact, what we know from the work on businesses and resilience is when times are like this, actually, some people make a great deal of money. If you can keep your head and keep calm in these circumstances, you make, of course, better decisions. You can see the world more clearly. Now, I think, some people are lucky. They have a personality, a disposition, which makes them better adjusted than others. They are not prone to worrying or prone so much to anxiety. I think there are techniques. I think we all need coping techniques to try and be as rational as possible, to have a group of friends around us who can help us and support us, to do a little bit of physical exercise, to keep one's eye always on the ultimate goal, not on all the things that are happening around us that are stressful. Most of us are trying to achieve something in our business lives, and to keep that ultimate goal and to get support from other people. I think that's the best I can offer in these difficult times.
You said, Professor, about group of friends. Do you think we can still have group of friends who are same political views as ours? We should keep them. Otherwise, if they're Republicans or Democrats or somebody who loves Russia or Ukraine or China or Japan, you will become mad, explaining to this group of people something. You will recommend it's the same people who think like you, or not necessarily?
Well, no, not necessarily. I think that leads to something called groupthink. I have some close friends who are politically rather different from me, but we share more in common than where we differ. We like each other. We've known each other for a long time. We celebrate the things we have in common, the beliefs we have in common, not where we differ. And we can have arguments, but the arguments don't lead to the end of a relationship. There's an expression in English, don't let the sun go down on your anger, meaning, resolve problems before they get into too much trouble. We know that husbands and wives or partners do by and large share values. But I believe that in the business world, we can agree to differ. I've got a number of people who are politically different from me, economically different from me. But because we like each other, we share interests and we share goals, that the differences we acknowledge simply are differences. And we don't go there a lot. We don't discuss them a lot. We acknowledge they're there and we celebrate what we have in common. And we look after each other. We look after each other in difficult times. And to find these sort of people is a very important aspect of, coping and succeeding in difficult times.
That is very wise from your point of view, to celebrate each other, to celebrate the success of each other, and to listen to each other and to talk. Because it will be very sad if people who are living together for 30 years and the couple who are living together for 30 years suddenly will say, oh no, I support Russia or Ukraine or USA or China or Japan, and they will separate. I think it doesn't make any sense, because
Correct.
any difficult situation ends, I hope.
Correct.
That's why then you will be thinking, oh my God, I lost my love. I lost somebody who is incredible. You wrote a book which is called Psychology of Attraction. Do you think it is possible to attract somebody if you know the secrets? And maybe it's a little bit silly question, but is it possible to attract somebody if you read your book and if you know psychology?
The book is more about physical attraction than psychological attraction. We know we can spell out exactly what characteristics make women attractive to men and men attractive to women in terms of their characteristics. For instance, what women most want in a man tend to be three things. They want what we call in English GSOH, good sense of humor, and that is a code for intelligence. Women like intelligent men because intelligent men, by and large, tend to have more money and they tend to be able to support them. So they like somebody who is intelligent. Intelligence is a very attractive characteristic. We know that intelligent people live longer. We know intelligent people have happier lives. We know that intelligent people have better relationships. So, and I think this is interesting, particularly in the case of women, that women sometimes feel obliged not to show their intelligence, that they think it might frighten men. I've written about this. I think to be smart, able, cognitively intelligent is a very attractive feature in both men and women. And this doesn't mean showing off arrogantly your knowledge, but simply being able to resolve situations, to understand complexity, to learn more quickly is a very, very attractive characteristic. There are also physical characteristics which we look for in each other. But I did a study some years ago on hypothetically, what characteristics are most important? Is your religion most important? Is your politics most important? And they are important because they're about values. People of different religions marry each other. People from different backgrounds marry each other. But there are ultimate values. My wife and I have never argued about certain things. Take, for instance, money. We're exactly on the same page with respect to money. We're both savers, not spenders. And there are other values that we have which are terribly important. Politically, we sometimes disagree. Religion, we sometimes disagree. But we share fundamental values, and seeking these out makes someone very attractive. People who are healthy and clever and share your values. Those are the most attractive characteristics that for both sexes in the other. And indeed in business, it's better to work with, nicer to work with somebody who is fit and clever and sees the world as you see the world.
But do you think, Adrian, that saver and spender can be together?
No,
cannot agree on money.
No.
If a wife is a spender and the husband is a saver, will it be difficult for this couple to survive?
Yes, I think it is. Money is very fundamental. Money. I've written a book on the psychology of money, and people are not rational with regard to their money. Some see money as a source of power. Some see it as a form of security. Some see it as freedom. And I often say to people, have you ever had any sort of, I say, are you a spender? Are you a saver? And most say, well, I'm a bit of both. And that's true. But I say, if you classify yourself as a spender, have you ever had any long-term relationship with a saver? And what was it like? And they said it was very difficult. And I can remember years ago with a girlfriend who was very different from me. She had a very different attitude towards money. And it was very fundamental, this difference. And I think it is difficult to reconcile that some people Attitudes towards money are not logical, they're not rational, they are psychological. And I think that, you know, when you work with somebody, their attitudes towards spending and investing can be very fundamental to the happiness of that relationship. So the quick answer to your question is it is very difficult for a strong spender to have a relationship with a strong saver because so many aspects of their behavior are different.
I understand. And also about sense of humor. Sense of humor is different for everybody. Maybe James Bond is funny to somebody, but Mr. Bean is not exactly that funny for others. Do you think, you mean intellectual? Is Mr. Bean a good example of person with sense of humor to you?
Not particularly. I think there are cultural differences in humor. You notice in Europe, it's a lot of visual humor. So Mr. Bean is very visual. It's a visual humor and translates across cultures. The British are very good at verbal humor. We make subtle jokes. The British, for instance, you know, one of the things is they put themselves down. So they say, "Oh, I was so lucky to win the Nobel Prize," that sort of thing. And there are ways in which the British send clues to each other. You know, I can be at a dinner party with Americans and British people, and the British find what I'm saying very funny, and it goes completely over the heads of the Americans. So it's not only the ability to speak a particular language, but I think, you know, one of the explanations I have is why the British are so bad at speaking foreign languages, apart from sheer laziness, is that we send messages to each other subtly through humor. So if there was something embarrassing coming up in our conversation now and we were both British, I would make a joke and you would understand the joke was a warning sign. This is sensitive. Now, that's a very British thing to do, and other people will either be insulted or not understand what I'm doing. So I think humor...
That is very intelligent because you're giving hints. You're giving a hint. It's
Correct.
A dangerous point. Stop, stop, stop. It's a very intelligent. It's not rude. I don't want to offend any Americans, but it's a very elegant way. You know, it's a lot of etiquette and elegance in this.
I think so. And it's just a way of doing things. So some people are very offended by another person's sense of humor. The British will make jokes out of something that is very sensitive, indicating that it's sensitive. And others will take that sensitivity as an insult. So, you know, I've learned this more and more. I don't tell jokes when I'm at conferences or working with people because they're so easily offended, particularly if they're not from my background.
Absolutely. I worked in Japan and, you know, my first foreign language is Japanese. And if Japanese are telling you, "Oh, Adrian, you have great watch. You know, your watch is very nice." Maybe other people, let's say Russians or English, they will say, "What an interesting compliment. Thank you." But for Japanese, that means it's time to leave. You should leave. You're staying already with me 5 hours and it's time for you to go home. So it's completely different indication and completely different hint. And you're absolutely right. It's not about speaking the language. It's about catching the senses that they're sending you. That's it. And as my final question to you, I would like to know your opinion. Now the teams, when for business owner is very difficult time, turbulent time, and even the business owner, he might be stressed. How can he lead his team to work good, to have some culture at work, if he himself is afraid and as he himself is exhausted? And when meeting this ice, he has no questions to this people, like what will be next, what will happen next month, who is going to make war with whom. Any few hints how to him face people?
Yes, it's an interesting one. It's a difficult one. I mean, it's a bit like being a parent. You know, when your son says, "Daddy, Daddy, are we nearly there yet?" and you say, "Yes, yes, yes," and you don't know where you are. I think one of the jobs of the leader is to try and bring as much calm as he or she can do to the group. On the other hand, I think it's a good example to let people speak about their anxieties. You know, we know, for instance, that if you deal with people in very, very stressful jobs, like people who run ambulances, who go to accidents, often at the end of the day, they have a debrief where they come together and they express their emotions. So they say how unhappy they are, how frightened they are, how depressed they are, and we get it out. We sit around together, and me as the leader, I too have anxieties, I too have worries, and I share them, and we all share them. Rather than suppressing them, we share together our concerns. So we say, okay, we all feel this way. It's a very bad situation we're in. Now having done that, now let's try and be more rational. So you're going to express your emotions and then try and be more rational. And I think the job of the leader is to try and identify those people in his or her group who are expressing most anxiety or whatever, and to give them a little more support. I don't think it's a good idea to pretend there's nothing going on. Oh, no, we can cope with all this. I also don't think it's a bad idea to collapse. As I say, it's a good idea to have, healthy coping strategies. Express your feelings. Now let's get on with the business. Let's see what we can do. Let's be as logical, as rational as possible. Let's spend time together doing, maybe some physical activity. That is usually quite good. Helping individuals, setting clear targets and goals. So for the leader of any team or group is to someone, first of all, confess that they too are worried and concerned. They experience that as they sure others are. They will help them as much as possible with their anxieties, but we're in business, we're trying to solve a problem. In view of all this, how can we help each other achieve a rational goal?
As a result of our talk, what I understood, number one, to be a saver, not a spender, because then it's easier to be happy in life. That is for me personally, because it surprised me deeply that a saver and the spender cannot be together, and you need to be on one side in that. Number two, what is my biggest takeaway, Professor, from our today's talk is that as a leader, it is okay to be frightened, to be in anxiety, to have feelings, and to share it with your team, because then they will understand that we are all together, we express it, and then we support each other. Number three is to be with the group of friends at this time. Even your political views are different. The most important is to stay friends, and as you say, listen to each other and discuss and respect what they're saying. It's not necessarily that everybody should love Biden or Trump or or Johnson. It's different. We can agree or not agree. And about physical attraction, that you should be very fit. You repeated it 3 times. I don't know why. What you want me to go exercise from tomorrow, but it's interesting that fit is important. Being fit.
Yes, and that is why politicians run on the stage. I mean, this is the shocking characteristic of poor Mr. Biden, who is clearly not very fit. People like their politicians, their leaders, to be strong and fit, and they're encouraged. You remember Mr. Clinton? They're encouraged to move fast so that they look healthy, because healthy people make better decisions. Leaders tend to be older, of course, but fitness. Physical fitness. There are concerns with many countries' leaders on their physical health. Doctors are pointing out some of the signs, and of course, health leads to illness, leads to bad decision making, to not being competent in the job. And so, one of the most crucial signs of attractiveness is physical fitness in the face and in the body. So you can specify body shape. It's called BMI, body mass index, waist to hip ratio, leg to torso ratio. You can look at another person, you can look at themselves, and you can see to what extent they are symmetrical. So symmetry is important. They see in the quality of your hair, your health. So all these are indicators of health. And health, of course, means longevity. It makes better decision making. So the
Well, I
psychologist...
think you should be in love with Aphrodite or with
Indeed.
Venera Milos, because they're absolutely gorgeous, you know, and everything is absolutely perfect. And Adrian, we are going to move there. Thank you so much for your positiveness.
My pleasure.
And for your sense of humor, which I feel somehow. English sense of humor, very elegant. All the best to you. Let the world be peaceful, nice, and prosperous. Thank you so much for being with